Now, I could talk more about the prohibition and its results. I'm sure you're probably aware of them. I don't know if you want to go into that sort of stuff, the attitude of the police and everything like that. I will say that there is a steady trend to lowering offences, the numbers of offences, but it's not uniform, and anyone can get busted if the circumstances are wrong. But generally you are safe, and as we know from what we saw on the video, and also around Dunedin and the 420s and that, there are ways of being safe and smoking in the open, in public. But if you do it by yourself, there's a good chance that a police person is going to think they can process you. And so the issue is still there very much, and there's still the whole, I don't call it a black market, but a green market, for cannabis. That's a whole issue that causes all kinds of distortions in people's behaviour, which is unnecessary. There are the issue of medical use, which is fairly obvious that medical marijuana should be available to people. There's no argument now that for some people it is very useful, and also there's no argument that it's fairly safe. It's not going to kill you, unlike many other substances, including alcohol and nicotine and a lot of prescribed drugs. And cannabis doesn't have a known kill value, so it's on that level it's very safe. But it's totally illegal to use it for medical reasons. The last political commission or committee that looked into it, the Health Committee, in 2002, 2003, it gave the green light for cannabis use for medical for uses, but that hasn't happened. So you've got to ask yourself, why is that? And from asking those questions and trying to work them out, you'll start seeing how things work in society, how different vested interests, or how incompetence can manifest itself, or intolerance, or bigotry. For example, the part of the history of cannabis prohibition is bigotry and intolerance, a very big part of it, narrow-mindedness. And it can come from the experts too. That's the other thing. You have a sort of a professional fascism from the medical experts or the law experts or whatever. They in the implementation of prohibition, you usually find there are hierarchies, and they have all their supports in place, and part of it is the expertise to justify what's going on. It's only if you sort of break out of that a bit more and look at things in a different way. But certainly the whole Western economy is based on prohibition of drugs, and you have to ask yourself, why is that? Why does it continue? And I don't know if anyone's been keeping a look on the time. Oh, okay, I've only been going 25 minutes, so I still have 5 minutes to wrap up, so that's good. We'll look into those issues. I'm not going to talk much more, I don't think, about the Cannabis Party, except to say it exists there as a vehicle to push the issue, to do something about it, because the system is showing a real reluctance to want to touch the cannabis issue. Now, you could take a conspiracy or a world powers view, and there is evidence for this. For example, in 2002, there was a commission on ganja in Jamaica that recommended that personal use of cannabis and personal growing be legalised. And the day after that came out, the local, the American ambassador based in Kingston said, "You do that and we're not going to guarantee the $9 billion worth of loans." He said that publicly in the newspaper. Several years ago, Mexico wanted to ban just about all, not ban, but legalise just about all drugs for personal use and ownership. And that was passed unanimously in their government, but it was vetoed by their president, and that was under intense United States pressure. So I think you can point to the United States on this one. That's fair enough. So if you want to indulge in a bit of United States bashing. That's one target that's quite legitimate. But like all things, it doesn't pay to be too stereotypical about it. You know, don't. For example, when I'm talking about the police, you know, there are police who know what the story is and are very sympathetic to what we want. However, for various reasons, they won't do anything about it. I mean, you can look to the way that's structured as a very hierarchical institution, and you dare not go outside the party line or else you have to leave. In fact, most New Zealanders, I would think, don't really care that much about the cannabis issue unless they are smokers themselves, or perhaps there's a smaller minority who maybe think there's a bad experience who's happened to someone they know or loved and it's directly attributable to cannabis. Those people might be virulently anti-cannabis, but most other people don't really care about it. It's not really an issue that bites into them. It's not something that... it's a secondary issue. And so it can be ignored. And the politicians who are all wanting your vote this year, they're trying to appeal to everyone, or most politicians are. They see everyone as a potential voter, and so they're going to say things that don't try and upset things. That's the first thing you do. And then give a hint that you might get some benefit from them being there. But you won't hear them advocating anything to do with the cannabis issue unless they're talking to a very narrow group, say for instance Winston Parties, Winston Peters' party. They can, you know, definitely go to their demographic and wind them up. In 3 days' time, when Jim Anderton's here, it'll be interesting to see who's in the audience. Does everyone know about that talk? But yeah, because he usually brings his people, so as well. But anyway, my point is that most people don't really care about the issue that much, and so nothing needs to be done about it. That's how I think it's seen politically, or it's too difficult. And Helen Clark's government has been one of caution, and I admire her for what she's achieved in terms of survival. It's like balancing ball bearings on top of each other, I'd imagine, and so they're not going to want to go anywhere near the cannabis issue. They thought they'd solved it by having a health committee look at it, which was only 3 years after the National New Zealand First government had looked at the mental health effects of cannabis, which were the key issue, because things to do with lungs and other things to do with cannabis are minor compared to the reputed effects on in the mental health area. So you had a report produced, chaired by a person who considered himself to be one of the most anti-dope politicians in Parliament, Brian, what's his name? Brian Neeson, that's it, yeah. He got ousted by John Key, so John Key could get into Parliament. He lost his seat somewhere up near Auckland. And anyway, he chaired this thing that looked into the mental health effects of cannabis, and looked into it quite deeply, and it produced a report that said basically they had to change the law, that most of the things alleged about cannabis were wrong, and that there needed to be a movement in the law. Nothing was done about it, and then Labor thought they would handle the problem by having another committee, and then nothing's been done about those recommendations which came out in 2003. I mean, when I say nothing, I mean by no results have happened from it. There's been discussion for sure. I imagine you'll be able to tell us about all that stuff, but there's been no result. The numbers of people being busted is dropping, but it's not something you can guarantee, and it still means that there's a green market for cannabis, or you will get busted for growing it, or you will get busted if you happen to be selling some to a friend or something. So I don't take many reassurances I hear in public from the police. I don't take much notice of them, because they're still pushing the line that they have the right to punish people for cannabis use. And I think clearly it's a health and education issue, and it's not one that needs to have criminality in it. Okay, thanks very much.